Inversion is probably a game that you've never heard of, and it released 10 years ago. I checked. I don't think Inversion is a bad game. It's an average game that's serviceable but forgettable. Despite that, I think the game had some interesting ideas that weren't utilized and fleshed out enough. And I want to talk about it. What it is, what I like, what I dislike. This is one of those middle tier games we don't see as much of anymore. Competently made for the most part, but nothing special. It had many of the necessary pieces to be special, but they didn't mesh together cohesively. Now it seems like we have indie games, AAA games, or pay-to-win, free-to-play games. Let's talk about this. Spoilers for the entirety of Inversion. We're getting into everything. Inversion came out in 2012 for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Windows, and Steam. It was published by Bandai Namco and developed by Saber Interactive, who is still around today. You may know them from developing other games like Mud Runner, SnowRunner, and Evil Dead the Game. You start off with a cutscene establishing our main character, Davis. This is a different perspective of a cutscene that happens late in the game. We're seeing into the future right now, and Davis gives this short monologue about his life, and this is about as intimate and in his head as we're going to get with him. That should tell you something. This whole thing is very apocalyptic looking. These guys are wearing makeshift armor, heads on pikes, fire, war paint, some weird, partly English language is being spoken. It's some kind of ritualistic sacrifice that these people want to perform. This way of talking happens throughout the game. You get bits and pieces of what's being said in subtitles, but if you listen, you can hear other English words that are not in the subtitles. It sounds like they're saying that Davis and his friend Leo have to die or everyone's torment is going to continue for eternity. This is all surreal to Davis. He sounds shocked by everything, and yet throughout the whole game he seems cool as a cucumber. Occasionally he looks upset, but his dialogue delivery is so flat. There's so much that goes on, and he is laser focused on finding his daughter. You'll see what I mean later. There's a flashback scene where you control a turret. He's still monologuing at this point. Nothing special happens, but they're showing off the destructibility of the game. And it looks pretty okay to me. Davis is still monologuing, and he says something weird.
I could still remember life as it was, before war even existed as an idea.
What?
When they came.
In the very first spoken line in the game, he mentions endless gang wars and riots. Sounds to me like war was a part of your daily life before this invasion. A particular kind of war, but gang wars are wars. What does he mean war didn't exist as an idea? Whatever. The writing isn't the best in this game. Then we find out from Davis that we all have been living in a simulation, a false existence, and everybody was totally fooled by it. Got it.
Sometimes I wonder if my life before this chaos ever really existed, or if it's just something I've imagined. Maybe this inversion of my life.
He said it. He said the title of the game. Yeah. And that's the intro. I've got a few things to say about this. So it seems like there's the simulated world, which is where Davis has been, and then there's the real world where these people live. They've probably been living outside the simulation for so long that English has changed to the point of being unrecognizable. You can only pick up a few words here and there. This world used to be Earth, but now it's a wasteland. I am not a linguist, not an expert on language, but I got looking around to see how far back you could time travel on Earth to other English-speaking areas and see if you could understand what people are saying. Since this game came out in 2012, let's use that as our start date. It varies by dialect and place, but from now, in 2012, you could travel back to the year 1462, which would put you roughly in Middle English territory. That's 550 years ago. In 1462, you could pick out a few words you recognize, but it would mostly sound like nonsense to you. The people living in wasteland Earth are speaking a language that has a few words you recognize, but it's mostly nonsense. So, the language in Inversion sounds as incomprehensible as what English could be like 550 years into the future, if in this example we assume that language changes roughly at the same rate over time, which it doesn't, but this is just a thought experiment. Which means the people living in Hellscape Earth have been here for 500 years because English wouldn't change this much overnight. So 500 years ago, a bunch of people allegedly got out of the simulation and have been living here since, their language having changed drastically. They've apparently developed a culty religious thing where human sacrifice is practiced. I won't go on about this, but I do find it kind of tropey that humans who have been separated from other humans for a long time go through this simplification, heads on spikes, human sacrifice, religious overtones about appeasing the gods. I roll my eyes at this stuff. We then go back in time to when all this started. Davis is working late and wants to drop off a birthday present for his daughter Leela. Leo, his partner, doesn't have kids and gives Davis a hard time about how being a dad is making him soft. I don't think I'd keep a picture of my kid taped to the dashboard of the car though. I'd just stick it in my wallet. We're driving back to Davis's apartment to drop off the present when...
Wow, that was close. We should follow that guy. What do you think?
Nah, just radio it in. Traffic guys will take care of him.
Yeah, I know. Priorities. We got a present to drop off. Station L23 to station C10. We have a code 5 on Highland.
It's a nice sunny day and suddenly the whole city is under attack. Okay, let's see what's going on. Kind of looks like a Lancer from Gears of War. There's a number of other similarities to Gears of War in this game. By the way, Inversion is a cover shooter, much like Gears of War. It's kind of Gears of War light. This game has some other similarities to Gears 2. You might enjoy this if cover shooters are your thing. You gotta be careful here because you can hit civilians accidentally. After all the enemies get cleared out here, they're checking for ID, trying to see if they can figure out who these guys are. They're very weird looking. Never seen anybody like this before. I mean, Leo, you should probably be wearing gloves before you touch them. Wait, you're supposed to wear gloves? You're just picking up the weapon? You gotta wear gloves. Probably has fingerprints on it. Davis?
Would need guns like this.
Yo, what are you doing? You can't just use that gun now. You have a shotgun. You gotta take that back to the station. That's evidence, dude. What kind of cops are you guys? You do a little bit more fighting in the street, and then Davis and Leo decide they're gonna go up to Davis's apartment to call police at HQ. I don't know why they don't just go back to the car. The radio is still in there. They didn't move that far up the street, but okay, whatever. We're going up to Davis's apartment because plot. Come on, Leo, we gotta go. Yo, watch this. Check me out, bro. Whoa, dude, how'd you do that? I'm just built different, bro. Then the whole street starts falling apart completely. This is not an earthquake. This is not an earthquake at all. Everything is floating and neither one of them is freaking out. They're just kind of like, oh, gee, I don't know what that was. Guess we're not going to go that way. Guess we just got to go to the back entrance up to the apartment. Oh, let's go.
Let's get to my apartment and call HQ. There's a back entrance.
I would be freaking out, but okay. We do more fighting outside before moving inside the apartment building to get to Davis's apartment. Gravity is doing weird things here and it looks like the whole building could collapse soon. I will say that for a 2012 game, this still looks okay to me. The destructibility and physics are nice. This is all pretty standard cover shooter stuff in terms of the gameplay. Even when you start messing with gravity directly later on and manipulating objects and things, oftentimes, honestly, I forget I even have the gravity gun because I just end up staying in cover or moving to a different piece of cover and shooting the enemies anyway. I don't have a ton to say about the gameplay itself. It works for the most part, and oftentimes I forget the gravity stuff is there. It feels gimmicky to me almost, like it was tacked on at the last minute. They came up with a cover shooter and went, okay, we need to have something that differentiates this from other cover shooters. What about using gravity? I only say this because I feel like there is something here just under the surface that could have been a lot more interesting and a lot more in-depth but it's just not there. That's kind of how I feel about this entire game, is that there's something underneath everything that this game is that could make it really good, really enjoyable, and it just doesn't quite get there. We get up to the right floor of the apartment building, and unfortunately, Kara, Davis's wife, is dying.
Kara, do you hear me?
She doesn't make it. I want this to be sad, and it is, but I don't know anything about Kara. I don't like when any story has a character die like this. I don't know Kara or what her marriage was like to Davis. This has no impact for me.
Carolina, open your eyes. Open your eyes, baby. Come on. Come on, Kara.
We can't stop for long, though, before trouble shows up again. This guy he shoots something here. I don't know what that was. Some kind of red beam or something? I have no idea. That bunch of rubble falls on them, and later we wake up in the street, captured. We see another one of these guys with that weird thing on his arm, briefly get a glimpse at Leila before Davis gets knocked out again. Welcome to the Wastelands. Arizona? I guess this is what the land looks like outside of Vanguard City. Looks pretty dry and pretty desolate. We get taken on a bus to what looks like a prison camp far outside of the city. These big guys will show up often and be like boss fights. They're annoying to deal with, but we'll get to that. This guy right here will show up later in a much worse condition than we see him in now. Davis looks like he's ready to give up. He's a broken man. His wife is dead. Layla's probably dead. He just does not want to move. And who could blame him? You know how in some games if you run into NPCs, they don't react to you? Well, these guys will shove you if you run into them, and if you do it enough times, they'll outright kill you. We get led through the camp here, and you can see that people are digging over here. I'm not sure what for, if they're digging for something. Maybe it's just manual labor for the sake of punishment. Davis and Leo are put in a cell, but Davis holds out by focusing on Leila. He's got something to keep him going, and I'm not sure how Leo is holding it together. They spend an unknown number of weeks locked in this cell. We learn later that it's been over a month, and they are brought out occasionally to dig. I'm not sure if they're digging for something or they're being forced to do manual labor as punishment. Anyway, one day a new guy arrives. This is Fitzgerald. He says that there's a resistance still out there that he's a part of, but he got captured. He's been with the resistance since the beginning, so there's still hope out there. He knows more than we do, like the Luthor leader is this Kilter guy, and that the children are being taken somewhere. We're not going to find out anything else right now because we're being taken down to the mine. Seems like they have a pretty decent operation. I mean, they seem to have electricity. How else would this lift go down? We get down to the mine and we're given these weird devices I mentioned earlier and find out that they can manipulate gravity. These things defy gravity and allow you to throw objects. This seems dangerous that they would give these to prisoners. I know the Luthors are heavily armed, but you could do a lot of damage with one of these things. Leo calls this thing a gravlink. I don't know where he came up with this. Nobody ever said that out loud. I'm just nitpicking here. I just don't know where he came up with that. Not only can you pick up objects and make them light, you can also switch to a different gravity mode and make them heavy in order to bring things down like we do here and are able to make a bridge. I'm not sure why we're down here. We just got locked in, and I've seen other people with digging tools digging for something, but we weren't given tools like that, so I don't know what we're supposed to be doing. As we're exploring the mines down here, we find out we're not alone. The Luthors are fighting something. What the hell is that? It's got a light. I don't know what that is. I do like what they're trying to go for here so far. They aren't telling you exactly what's happening, unlike some games that shove the story down your throat and give you exposition dumps. I much prefer this.
Let's go, partner.
I like what they're going for right here, which is you'll see the shadow of whatever this thing is on the wall here as the Ludadors are trying to fight them. Even though I feel like this is a little bit wonky, I do like this sort of storytelling that doesn't have a character telling you what's happening, you just see things happening. There's not a whole lot going on in this section, it's just a lot of object manipulation, and using the gravity feels fine, although later on you'll want to be careful because if you're behind cover and you go to pick up an object, you will remove yourself fully from that cover in order to throw the object, and you take damage really quickly in this game. I'm playing on normal, but I take a lot of damage. So we come across a couple of Ludadors eventually, and they just start shooting at us at random. Supposedly, the Ludadors should know that we're being sent down here to perform some sort of manual labor, but they're immediately hostile to us. Which doesn't really make any sense to me, because why would they want us dead? Don't they want us to work for them? And if they wanted us dead, why didn't they just kill us in Vanguard City over a month ago? Things are looking a little bit better for us because we managed to take out those Ludadors with our Gravlinks and pick up their weapons. So now we're better armed and better able to handle things. Fight our way to this room with a big hole in the ground, and what in the hell is this thing? Some kind of weird robot? This is definitely not something the Ludadors are using. I don't know what this is, but it's a boss fight. Bullets from the guns don't do a ton of damage, so you kind of have to use the Gravlink here. But that's okay, because there's plenty of rocks down here, and now I have tons of ammo to throw at you. Once the rocks start flying, it goes down pretty quickly. But we're not free just yet because we get captured again. Back into the cell with us. But don't worry, we're gonna head back to that room we were in before and see where that hole in the ground goes. Back at the cell, we talk to Fitzgerald, and he says he wants to help us get out, and that he's got some way to help us. He gives us something. I don't know if it's a lockpick or he found a key or something. We wait until the cover of night, and Fitzgerald distracts the guards by screaming at them. We get the door open pretty easily with the lockpick or key or whatever it is that Fitzgerald gave us. And then we sneak out this unlocked window because the Ludadors probably thought that nobody would ever be able to get out. We sneak around outside, avoiding the guards as much as possible. And I know that these graphics are dated, but I'm kind of impressed with the way the rain looks, to be honest with you. I think it looks pretty good. I especially like the water dripping off the sides of the building. Something about it just looks nice to me. Sneaking around works for a little while, but eventually we do need weapons, so we take some. We have to fight our way out of here, and the cover shooting here is serviceable, but they are pretty serious about us not getting out of here because eventually they bring a tank. Sometimes you get these enemies that show up that have a Gravlink of their own. They're not too hard to deal with. Every time I've seen them, they're not all that aggressive in using the Gravlink. Sometimes it can be annoying, but they're not too hard to deal with. Everything goes fine in this room until apparently I take out this guy. The camera weirdly focuses on his body dropping. And it's about now that I'm realizing that I can't aim. My aim is stuck on this guy. I can move around, but I can't. There's one other guy behind that wall, and I can't get to him. This is a weird glitch. I don't think I've seen this before. And I have to be killed by this guy, this other guy, in order to reset the room. Second time through the fight goes fine. There's no aiming glitch. But Davis is still hurt. He got hurt back in the tunnel and has been in a lot of pain since. Leo finds some armor, but no medical supplies.
You better? Yeah.
So he just puts on the armor and he's fine. No medical supplies needed. I know that I'm nitpicking, but these little things bother me. But whatever. Let's move on. It doesn't take us too long, and we make our way back into that same cave we were in before and fight our way through a bunch of Ludadors. We make our way back to that same room from before with the big hole in the ground. where that robot came out, but it's looking a lot more dangerous this time because this room is rigged with tons of explosives. We're taking a big risk right now because we can't have the Ludadors following us, so we arm the explosives and then have to jump into this hole and hope that it leads to somewhere significant that'll help us get out and we don't die from the explosion. Oh, for God's sake, Leo. You shimmied around these boxes just a second ago.
This place is about to blow. Hey, Davis, check this out. No time. We're leaving.
Are they okay? Did they survive?
We did it, Chief.
Yeah, they're fine. And Davis stupidly suggests that they should split up. Are you an idiot? After everything that you've been through so far and looking at the way the world is right now, why would it ever be a good idea to split up, you idiot? Leo doesn't leave, thankfully. Davis and Leo make their way back to Vanguard City, and things look rough. There's dead bodies all over the place, things on fire, garbage everywhere, but you still gotta try to find Layla. You still have a lot of gravitational activity. I don't know what's causing this, but it seems to happen randomly as we're walking around. I again want to point out the water effects here. It doesn't look so great when it hits the ground, but I don't know, the water coming out of the downspout just looks nice to me. There's some movies and shows that do this. The bicycle moving by itself is always kind of creepy. Counter Ludadors and fight them, and ooh, do we have a sniper boss? Oh, that's a hell of a shot. You blew up the whole freaking car. It turns out this guy is pretty easy. Other than that initial shot, he doesn't take another shot here. He doesn't even try to shoot me when I pop out of cover. And then goes down pretty easily. A lot of these buildings are still standing. I think you could rebuild relatively easily. We're mostly skipping over this part because not that much happens. I haven't really talked about the combat that much, but I did say earlier that it's fine, and it is. It's a standard cover shooter, and the grav-link adds a bit of flavor, allowing you to throw things. You can also pull enemies out of cover by aiming the grav-link at them, or use the heavy setting to push enemies down so they can't move. It's functional, it works. I'm not having a bad time, but I am playing on controller with aim assist on, but it seems like most of the time the aim assist doesn't work. Sometimes it helps me find targets, but a lot of the time it doesn't do anything. I don't know what's going on with that. Remember when I said this game takes things from Gears of War? Well, this is just like when the Locusts emerge from underground, except the Ludadors are using these drill machines to get to the surface. To stop them from coming out, all you need is a well-placed grenade, and then they'll stop coming out of there. I do like the attention to detail here. You can see this guy is trying to hold on to a piece of cover so he doesn't float away. I like little things like that. Davis and Leo get to doing a little bit of talking about where they think the Ludadors are coming from. Davis thinks that maybe they live underground, but Leo's not convinced of that. Either way, they're coming up from underground, so I don't know where they're coming from. And they also have a bunch of prisoners digging looking for things, so I don't know what they're looking for. I don't know what the deal is, but I want to find out. You're going to get to see a zero gravity area for the first time. And I will say, these animations here look pretty good. It looks pretty nice the way the street falls apart and everything just floats up like that. You can't freely fly around these areas, but it does look cool. Later on, it can get chaotic floating around cover to cover because enemies can do it too. You can get yourself into situations where if you move too far out, you'll end up being surrounded. It's an interesting idea, but I end up playing these sections like any other section. You stick to one piece of cover and don't get surrounded. If you're more adventurous, I'm sure you could have fun zipping around from cover to cover, flanking enemies and throwing things at them. And anything you throw at an enemy is an instant KO. Maybe if I was more adventurous, or maybe if I turned down the difficulty level, I would zip around cover to cover, but like I mentioned before, even on normal difficulty, you take a lot of damage in this game, so I don't like to risk being out of cover for very long. They make it back to what was Davis's apartment, and there's no sign of Layla. Future Davis is talking over this scene about hope and how that can propel a person forward. Future Davis seems to know about everything. We'll come back to this later. For now, present-day Davis has hope that Layla is alive and well.
You promised me you would take me on a trip to the
Come on, Davis, we can't hang around here. I'm sorry about Layla, but there's gunfire outside. We gotta see what's going on.
Let's go.
Ooh, we got a big boy here. This guy right here is a behemoth. They'll show up sometimes as a boss. They're not too hard to deal with, though. Either toss a bunch of grenades at him, which the explosion will hit his exposed back, or when he's exposed, you can just shoot him in the back, and he goes down pretty quickly. Time to meet our new friends. This introduction is not so cozy, but we meet Banks and Herrick. Banks is the bald one. I noticed in editing that there's an echo here. I know we're in the middle of the street, but I don't think their voices should be echoing off the buildings like this.
Fighting back and taking the war to the Lutador's doorstep. We'd like you to join us. That is, unless you'd rather shoot us.
It's weird. It sounds like we're in a big empty room, but we're in the middle of the street. Banks goes on to explain that there's this place called Camp Takal, which is the Lutador's headquarters, they think. This sounds disturbing. They're sending a bunch of kids there. I don't know what they're doing with them. So we agree to find the location of this camp. We also need to find transportation, and then Banks will take us there. Banks and his men will go find a vehicle while Davis and Leo infiltrate a smaller camp nearby to find out where Camp Takal is. Alright, we get a radio to keep in touch. Banks and Harris join our group, and we've got ourselves a new objective. We fight through the street and then eventually get into this building, and I like this section in here. You're not going door to door clearing out rooms. You're actually able to shoot the walls and blow them apart here, and it's really interesting. And you can see it goes back pretty far, a number of rooms where, I don't know, I just like this section. We get a false alarm. Oh my god, is that Layla? No, it's not. It's not Layla. We get to one of the scenes in the flashbacks from earlier where you shoot out this building. This is still just eye candy. Nothing important happens here to the story. But it does still look nice even the second time through. Yeah, this looks pretty nice. Oh, and there's a behemoth too. Oh, great. It'll go down pretty quickly, don't worry, now that we have a turret. Banks then tells us that we should be able to find information about Camp Takal in an office building nearby, but he and Harris are splitting up from Leo and Davis to go find transportation. I'm not sure how Banks knows to look in this office building for info. He mentioned earlier he's never been this deep in the enemy territory, so how does he know this? I don't know. Maybe I missed something. It's in this section that we're introduced to switching gravity planes. It's these blue things that show up at certain points in the game when they want you to switch planes. It's an interesting perspective shift, but I do wonder what could have been. If they had set this up more often with big rooms where you could switch to the walls or ceiling at will, that would have been interesting. And this could have made for some awesome boss fights, but there are no boss fights that utilize this mechanic. It's disappointing. I wish that they were able to do more with this. Check this out. I'm at full health here. There are no red indicators on the screen saying that I've taken damage, and this sniper just one-taps me. This game is brutal. As I mentioned, I'm playing on normal difficulty, but you are not encouraged to move out of cover at all. Even though to use the grav link, you have to move out of cover to throw things. Much of the time, I feel like I kind of forgot that the grav link was even a thing, because it made a lot more sense to stay in cover and just pop out when I can and shoot at the enemies. We fight our way across the rooftops and do some plane switching, and then we get another one of these guys with the grav link. This guy is called the Butcher, and we're about to get a boss fight. I'm not sure why he's called the Butcher. Has he killed a lot of free people? Prisoners? Why is he called that? I don't know. He runs away and gets himself inside this big mech that we then have to fight. This guy's dangerous. He can pick up whole cars and throw them at you, so you gotta be really careful here. It took me longer than I care to admit that you need to be throwing grenades at this guy to really damage him. And he moves around quite a bit in this arena, so if you stay in one spot, he'll charge right at you and do a lot of damage or kill you instantly. Surprisingly, this car falling on my head doesn't kill me, but I find out firsthand that his charge ability will kill me. Yep. This guy has mostly this turret that he uses to shoot at you constantly. He likes to throw grenades at you too. That's gotta be like 10 grenades he throws out all at once, so you better hightail it out of there and get away from him. You get a brief moment to run up and throw a grenade inside the mech at one point when it goes down. And we don't have to deal with that gun arm anymore. And I do want to point out that the design of this mech is kind of cool. You can see that it has pinchers on the back in order to grab somebody if they try to climb up on the back of the mech. So whoever designed this knew that was a weak point and designed a possible solution for that right into the mech. I think that's kind of cool. I didn't think you could use the grav link on this guy. I guess I just figured he was too big and wouldn't be affected by it, but you can see here I stop him a couple of times from charging at me, and then I'm able to damage him and kill him. We take the Butcher down and get the intel that we need. Camp Tikal is somewhere to the east of the city. And we get an upgrade to the grav link. I actually don't know what this upgrade does. I didn't notice anything different with the gameplay. After the boss, we do a bunch of fighting through some generic looking buildings, but I do like this library. It adds a little variety instead of the bland interiors that I'm used to at this point. Once we get to the roof, we have a moment to rest. We radio Banks about Camp Tikal's location, but he's under attack, so we've got to help him. Time to go back down to street level. As we're making our way towards Banks, we get a tiny amount of backstory for these two.
Hey, Davis. You know, I never really thought about why you helped me get on the force. Wasn't exactly a good Samaritan.
People can change if you help them to.
Yeah. You know, you're right. I'm doing good now. It's thanks to you.
This is about all we get in terms of backstory for these two characters. It sounds like Leo had a rough past. I'm not sure what went on, and the game never says. This never gets expanded on or explored, which is a shame because I'd like to know more about these two. Here, watch this.
I think the ceiling's gonna become the floor.
That's kind of cool. The camera work there, that's kind of cool. I like the perspective here. I like the idea of fighting down the side of a building, and you can see other fighting on the ground as you're moving down the side of the building. Just something about this I like. I know that I keep doing this, I keep jumping from one thing to the next, but there are a lot of little things that this game does that I like. Interesting level design, interesting mechanics, different perspectives like this here. Even though the game as an entire package doesn't quite get there, and I understand why this game is like pretty forgettable, it just does a bunch of little things right. And if they had tightened up the whole story, I shouldn't even say tightened up, if they expanded it and let loose with it, I think this could have been a much bigger hit. We get back on the ground and it turns out Fitzgerald is alive. Remember him? The guy who helped us get out of the cell? When we started shooting, Fitzgerald was able to escape out the same hole we did before us. He knew Davis and Leo were heading out that way, which begs the question, why didn't he wait for us? All three have the same goal here. He made it back to the city to find Banks, but why do it on his own? We go outside and meet up with Banks, but he's under heavy fire. There's a mortar on the roof that has everyone pinned down, and we've got to go take it out, otherwise we're not going to be able to move out of here. There's a few things in the way here. We have a turret. A behemoth shows up. Pushover. We do a little 0G fighting. Then we make it to the roof and take out the mortar with a combination of rockets and explosive barrels. Sure, it's nice they have so many explosive barrels just sitting around. I'm not familiar with military vehicles, but this armored vehicle design is probably based off something like this. You'll see later that, much like this real-life armored vehicle, people can get inside this thing from the back. Now we're heading out of the city, east towards Camp Takal. There's a brief section here where we have to protect the APC as it goes down the street, although it doesn't take very much damage and this section isn't all that difficult. After we get to the end of the street, we grab another upgrade for the Gravlink. This one gives us the ability to pick up whole cars and throw them. That'll come in handy. Got a bad guy bothering you? Just throw a whole car at his head. You don't have to move far before we have another mortar to deal with. This part was hard for me. I died several times trying to do this. Enemies flood the street here as you move under the overpass. Throwing cars is the easiest way to deal with this, but you can't stay out of cover for very long before you get shot to pieces. I do like that I can now move cars around as cover, so I don't have to stay in the same place. I can get into a different position and be somewhat protected if I don't like where I was before. But there are these three behemoths that show up that are really hard to deal with. Plus, all the other enemies that are walking around out here, and they have no sense of staying in cover. They just walk right up the street and shoot at you. I get by this part by staying in one spot and throwing cars from there. This seems like the kind of game that would encourage you to move around since you can take the cover with you, but it's not really. At its core, this is a cover shooter with a gravity gimmick latched on. I don't mean to be so negative, but it does feel a little gimmicky. You could play through this game mostly not using the Gravlink, and oftentimes I did just that because it was easier just to shoot the enemies. I will say though, there are three behemoths right now, and throwing a car makes it so much easier to just deal with all three of them like I did just there. Clearing out this mortar plays out in much the same way that the previous one did. It's actually kind of the same beats. We first do a turret, and then a 0G bit, and then we move up through a building. So it's almost copy-paste the same. I'm gonna let this next scene play out for you so you can hear the voice acting.
Then how do you explain how they control gravity?
It's not gravity. It's gotta be some other force, something we haven't found yet.
Someone wanna tell me how a bunch of shit-breathing barbarians figured out how to control a motherfucking force of nature?
Maybe that's just how things are on their planet. You think they come from another planet? You got a better answer?
Hey! Last time I checked, ain't none of you professors. So don't waste your time theorizing. We've got one job and one job only. Blast some motherfuckers back to wherever they came from.
Come on, you gonna weigh in on this?
Don't know. Don't care. All I know is someone's gonna pay for taking my little girl.
Amen.
I'm re-recording this because I do not have children. I don't know what it's like to have such a strong commitment to a child. I cannot speak to whether Davis's behavior is believable or not. I will elaborate more on this later, but I find his lack of care for anything else going on around him surprising. We get attacked and are forced to stop at a graveyard and fight our way through said graveyard. Luckily, it turns out that we're where we want to be anyway. The camp is within walking distance from here. Davis, Leo, and Banks will head to the camp and see what they find. On our way to the camp, we have to do some heavy lifting to make a bridge, and I wanted to see if Banks and Leo could die here. Nope, can't be done. I had to check. You understand, right? We get near the camp and find a kid who managed to escape. Davis gets pretty intense questioning this kid about Layla, but we find out that the kids are being taken to someplace called the Station, somewhere underground. Ooh, ominous.
Where's this station?
Easy, Davis.
First, we have to get into the camp so we can find a way down to the station. As we're fighting our way in, a new enemy type shows up. These berserker guys charge straight at you. They can get annoying and force you to move, which is a problem when you take a lot of damage when you move out of cover. So, if these guys are combined with people that are shooting at you, it gets to be a pain. Remember this guy I mentioned earlier who was in the first camp we went to? Well, he's trapped in a cell and has gone crazy. He starts yelling at us about how people are being mistreated and abused. I believe him. He's not important and doesn't show up later or anything, but the voice acting here compared to some other characters is pretty convincing. He has lost it. I did try to look for some kind of lever to let this guy out, but I couldn't find anything. Seems kind of weird that he's out here by himself and no one else is around. There's this area you come to with a bunch of cells with people in them. They all sound like they've been brainwashed into believing whatever culty stuff the Lutadors are telling them.
You must join us and reject their sinful nature. Come with us. Submit to the will of the rightful master. Master will show you the true path. Kneel to the master. He will grant you the redemption you're seeking.
Alrighty then, I'll just be leaving. Anyway, we get a slave driver boss fight after this, which, look, I don't like these kinds of boss fights. The ones where the boss just sends a bunch of weaker enemies after you. Personally, I think that's just lazy design in place of a boss with a challenging moveset. I don't like these kinds of fights. They're just boring. Despite my dissatisfaction with fights like this, he does eventually go down, and I didn't even have to restart this fight, which I was afraid I would need to, and I would die a bunch because a bunch of enemies were swarming me, but no, I got it the first time. And we get a Gravlink upgrade. Now, in addition to making things light, we can make things heavy. And we're also given the ability to deploy a shield, but I always forget that I even have this. It probably would have made future fights a lot easier to just use the shield, but I never remember that I can do this. Make it to the gravity pit by hijacking one of those drill things that the Lutadors use. I've been wondering about these metal plates that are all over the inside of the rocks around here. Davis mentions that it looks like they're controlling gravity with them somehow. I'm not sure why the Lutadors are obsessed with controlling gravity. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of applications for this kind of technology. They've dug up this huge hole in the ground looking for something. They're taking all the children here as well for unknown reasons, but apparently to brainwash them into zealous homicidal maniacs that will do the cult's bidding. I said this earlier, but I like how they're trying to have the story play out. There are no cutscenes showing you the villains hatching a plan, nothing behind the scenes. You are in the shoes of Davis and Leo and just as lost about what's going on as they are. I appreciate finding things out in real time as the characters do. We get another slave driver boss, and I die quite a few times trying to fight him. These bosses are so annoying. His whip attack does so much damage. Plus, I have to deal with these other enemies running around. Everything is going okay, and then... Oh no, not this. No, not this again. I'm stuck. Oh my god, I'm freaking stuck again, and I can't aim. Now I've got to try to move around and hit this guy. I'm still stuck here. I'm moving around the whole arena. I'm rolling all over the place. I'm trying anything I can to get unstuck. And his health is so low. I've managed this fight up until this point, and I'm just so frustrated now. I make my way back over to where my aim seems to be stuck, and... oh my god! Oh my god, I'm free! No! Okay, alright, okay, but I'm free though. I can actually aim and move around properly. Come on, your health is so low. I've got this barrel ready for you.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Well, eventually I managed to take him down, but oh man, what a pain this was. After the boss fight, we have some more fun with gravity, and we get a new enemy type. These lovely young ladies only show up in gravity wells. They have glowing blades attached to their arms, and I don't know why they glow, they just do. Much like those berserker enemies, they are constantly moving around, so you just better be careful that they don't get close enough to hit you. Making my way through 0G, minding my own business. I want to shoot this guy and... oh no, my aim is stuck again. God damn it. Okay, what if I throw a grenade? Will that do anything? Oh wait, yes! Yes, I can move now! What the hell? Why does throwing a grenade do that? I don't know why this keeps happening. It doesn't happen constantly, but it happens often enough to be really annoying. We want to go into here. It looks like some kind of generator or something, so we've got to figure out where this gravity power source is coming from. We make it inside this generator thing, and the Luchadors are fighting the robots. So we have three different sides here. Leo Davis and the rest of humanity on one side. The Luchadors, who are human too, but from somewhere else, and these robots who seem to be the ones that built all this. I feel like humanity got caught up with some war between the robots and the Luchadors. Wait, so the Luchadors are taking kids because they need more recruits to fight a war with the robots? Is that what's going on? If they're recruiting little kids to grow up learning how to fight, that means that this war has been going on for a long time. Is this some kind of forever war? Let's appreciate this area for a minute. I like these big engines with the huge fans. You've got some really big fans, you've got some small ones spinning at different speeds. Visually, I like this. I just do. I enjoy big mechanical stuff. Yeah, this is cool looking. I like this. This is the most interesting area I've seen visually so far. Yeah, big mechanical engine stuff. Sweet. We head down an elevator and... ooh, what's this place? This is the station that little kid was talking about.
How the hell they keep this hidden? Davis, look. What is that?
This train is so freaking cool. Trains are just cool, man. I love this. We overhear that this train is apparently used to transport slaves. So we need to get on this thing and figure out where this goes. We're not sure where we're going to end up, but we'll find out. I didn't realize until around now that you can do finishers. Huh. That's cool. Wish I had known that earlier. We get another butcher fight before we get on the train, and conveniently there are these giant explosive barrels just sitting around, which helps out a lot. And it's convenient that there are these cars hanging from the ceiling that you can bring down and crush the butcher with. That also makes this fight a lot easier. Then we have another slave driver fight. Man, this game likes to throw multiple bosses at you back to back, doesn't it? This one is a bit more difficult because there are holes in the ground that you have to be careful of, and enemies climb up out of the hole with bombs strapped to them, and there are enemies up on the ledges here that shoot down at you, and the boss himself. But we pick up a nice laser rifle in the train station, so that helps out quite a bit. As we fight our way towards the train, you come across this area with these containers hanging from the ceiling that you can drop down to help give you cover. I like how it takes a little bit of time for the heavy setting to pull these containers down. It gives real weight to it, and you can hear the metal creaking and everything. We get a turret section here before we get on the train, and I'm not real big on turret sections. I don't think they're all that interesting. I don't think they're very fun, but, you know. We hold them off for a little while, but then they bring a tank. So now it's time to leave, because we can't do anything about that. These cutscenes are generally nice. This game has good production value, and this doesn't look janky or anything like that. It doesn't look sloppy. The problem is that the gameplay is passable at best, and the story is bringing up the rear far behind. This game could have been more, but it's not. I'm disappointed about the lost potential of the game.
Yeah, you're right. Gotta be right on her trail.
Even Leo's getting frustrated with Davis.
Look, let's just focus on stopping these guys first. It's the only way everyone's gonna be safe.
You can focus on saving the world.
Oh my god, Davis, expand your horizons a little bit.
Hey, what's this?
More of these sword arm ladies! Hooray! Hooray. I'm gonna skip through most of this part because it's just more fighting. We fight one of these security bosses and we go through different areas fighting enemies. I think there's a 0G portion in here somewhere. It would be fine if there was a little bit more variety in the bosses. The security bot I haven't fought as many times as others, but there's not a whole lot going on in this section. Besides, the next room that we get to is a very important room because it reveals a lot about what's going on in this game.
No. It looks like we might be part of
That's what I said. There's a larger war going on. Oh man, we're gonna get to pilot these mechs. These look like the same things that the Butcher were using, and there's 2 of them. Yes, please. Let's press this button and get these things out of there so we can use them.
What's going on? So what does it mean, D? That picture. And the shuttle. What the hell is this? Are we in space? We on some goddamn spaceship?
If we're in space, then how did we get here? Did that train or shuttle take us here? Our land. Our world. Where the hell is it?
Oh no. No, look! There! What the hell? No. It can't be. That's where we live? Our home is some dome on a spaceship?
My God. It is. How could we not have known?
Because we're fools, Davis. Our whole lives have been a fucking lie.
Come on, Leo, take it easy. Everything will be okay.
Okay? Don't tell me everything's gonna be okay. I mean, what the hell are we fighting for? To rebuild a goddamn dome on a fucking UFO? I mean, what's the point of all this?
Leo, you need to calm the hell down. Now, I'm going out there to find my daughter. And you're gonna help me.
No, D. We're not gonna find her. You're a goddamn fool.
Don't you fucking say that! Now she's out there. We're going after her.
Okay, so I thought about this a little more, and I'm going to give you both sides of what I'm thinking about Davis, his character, and his motivation. I do not have children. I don't know what that's like. Anytime I hear from or about parents, all they talk about are their kids. They would do
There was
anything
nothing
for
worth
them. They would
living for,
die
nothing
for
worth
them.
fighting for.
For the parents, that child is their entire world
just
and
go.
nothing else matters. I have my opinions on what I see as
But hope is a
single-minded
funny
tunnel
way of
visioning that
interfering
can
with
negatively
reality.
impact your life, but that's
matter
for
how
another time
rational
or
it
maybe
might
never.
seem.
Screw you, I'll talk about it if I wanna.
She was gone.
With this in mind,
but without
I can
her,
understand that in a world
the thought that
that
she
has
might
been
be out
all
there,
turned around, where nothing makes
I would've
sense
just sat
anymore,
down and let those
where
bastards
Davis
take me.
has every right to be afraid of what
tricks
this world holds for Layla's
So
future
it's
and his,
Can those
finding
truly
and
trust?
being with his daughter is the
Daddy,
only
I
thing
gotta
that makes
ask you
sense to
something.
him. If he can just find Layla, just have something to ground himself a little, then maybe he can turn his attention to other things. This man is channeling every ounce of dad's strength in his body. I will give you that. However, we need a timeout so we can talk about this. I'm not going to yell. The first time I recorded this, I was yelling. The perception of his existence is completely shattered. That train must have been a space elevator, and we are in space. Not only that, but it turns out that the Earth that you and I call home is nothing more than an enclosed dome. It's not the Matrix, because while the world is controlled, it's not a computer simulation. These two go through all of this, and Leo is having a proper freakout. He can't believe what's happening. Davis, though? Davis is shocked for only a minute before he goes, "We've got to find my daughter." Davis. After everything that has gone on, I would have thought by now you would see the bigger picture. The nature of your very existence is in question, and he seems unfazed by it all. Shocked for a minute, but then right back to finding his daughter. Davis, zoom out from your narrow perspective. The situation has changed drastically from a rescue mission into questioning the purpose of your existence. At this point, listen, I'm sorry, man. Where could your daughter be? We've come so far. Where could she be? The longer it takes to find her, the less likely it is that she's alive. The whole way through, we haven't ever found traces of her. No glimpse of her being taken away by the Lutadors. Nobody else has seen her. No evidence that she has been through any of the areas that we've been through. She's got that bracelet. Davis has a matching bracelet. We haven't found that. It wasn't dropped anywhere to give us a clue for the right direction to find her. It's been hunches and guessing and, well, she's got to be here or there and we're right behind her. I commend the guy for being so committed to finding his daughter, but he just can't see the bigger picture. Oh my gosh. This spaceship is enormous and it's pretty cool looking too. Just take a second here. This is good art direction. Oh, and we don't get to use the mechs. Very disappointing. We get into a nearby elevator and head down. As Davis says, we have no idea what's on the other side of that elevator door. There is no plan anymore. From here on out, we're playing it by ear. This is the Lutador homeworld. I imagine at one point this planet used to be nice, maybe even something like Earth. I don't know, we don't get any information about that, so it's just a hunch. There are kids down there, so that's something. Maybe Layla is there? We gotta go down there and find out. That looks like someplace we're gonna end up going to. I'm sure of it. I do want to stop here and show you this. I'm a fan of lava planets. It's dated looking for sure, but it feels right. It sounds right too. Listen to it. Yeah, looks good, sounds good. I like it. We get into some more shootouts and take a look at how this wall gets picked apart from the gunfire. I like this sort of thing. It's not a little detail that every game has, it doesn't have to have it, but it adds a little something to it. You know what I mean? I like destructibility in games. This area gave me some trouble. I died a few times and there's a lot going on here. I've got enemies shooting at me from above, shooting at me from the ground and these enemies charging at me, which is forcing me to back up constantly. Remember how I said that throwing objects takes you completely out of cover and that you go down quickly when out of cover? That makes this area and other late game areas problematic. This place exists on different gravity planes too, which I'm not sure how it got to be this way, and neither do Davis or Leo. Things started to go crazy with gravity on Earth when the Lutadors showed up. Why this world is messed up, I see 3 possibilities. 1, the Lutadors figured out this gravity stuff on their own and it went bad. 2, the robots on the spaceship started messing with the gravity. Or 3, the Lutador homeworld was invaded by some other species being kept on a different dome who figured out this gravity stuff. Remember back on the spaceship where we saw the 4 domes? Who knows if there's more than that and how many? Maybe there's multiple ships. I don't know. So, I don't know how the gravity got like this on this planet. There's a lot of possibilities, and there's probably more that I haven't thought of, I'm sure of that, but I do like how this looks. I like visually how it looks with the lava flowing up, but it's actually down on the other plane, and the enemies are walking around on the ceiling. It's neat looking.
What the hell is this place?
I don't know, Davis, but it looks freaking cool. Okay, we'll move on. We do a little zero-G fighting in this zone, which, look, I know I'm going on and on about this, but I love the look and feel of this place. There's so much crap everywhere. All these rocks and the lava flowing and everything like that. We do have a little trouble dealing with these enemies that have the blades on their arms, but not too much, and I managed to get through this area. Oh, and we can throw balls of lava, which is pretty sweet. Remember how I said we'd probably be coming over this way? Mm-hmm. And we get a new boss. Finally, something that is not a slave driver or one of those butcher enemies. This guy looks freaking tough as nails, and he has a flamethrower? Oh, baby. I broke my own rule the first time I fought this guy because I was moving around way too much, wasn't staying in cover, and I died. This time, I just sit behind this one piece of cover and spam lava at this guy. And this boss fight is made laughably easy that way. I was really disappointed. I was expecting something else. It was a new boss type. Maybe I'd have to move around or employ some new strategy, but it wasn't the case, and this was disappointing. Wow. All right then. That was very easy. We do, however, get to take this boss's flamethrower weapon, so that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, this is useful. Purge them with fire. Don't have to worry about these enemies running up in my face anymore. I haven't really talked about it that much, but these turret sections keep coming up relatively consistently, and it's just about moving from cover to cover and avoid getting shot up by this thing. This game has a real thing with reusing different encounters, and it does get a bit boring. Oh, another slave driver fight. Hooray. This is so fun. Come on, Leo, get up. You gotta get up here. Come on. Oh, yay. Okay, he's almost dead. I'm pretty sure I can get him this time. I'm pretty sure. The boss fights are one of the weakest points of this game. We've fought so many of these guys, and it's the same thing every time. This one in particular I had a tough time with. I think it's worse than the last one because now we have to deal with regular melee enemies, suicide bomb enemies, armored guys with guns, armored guys with melee weapons who are charging at me, and the boss himself with that insanely strong whip. The controls aren't bad, it's just that there's a lot going on. I run out of ammo consistently, but fortunately enemies are dropping ammo, or I think there's ammo just spread around the arena, and I believe that it respawns, so you're never going to be in a situation where you're completely out of ammo and can't get any more. But my goodness, I lost track of how many times I died. I don't want to count, it's too many. At one point, I did have to get up and walk away from this for a bit. This was such an annoying boss fight. Actually, I take that back. I didn't die that many times, but the fights were so long every time I did them because I was using up a lot of ammo to kill all these enemies, and then I was having to run around and pick up ammo around the arena instead of dealing with the enemies. You are forced to deal with the other enemies, which takes up a lot of ammo. You can't just go ham on the slave driver and break his shield and then do damage to him while ignoring all the other enemies. You have to deal with all the enemies. It's only after they're all dead will he take his shield down for a little while and you can actually do damage to him. But again, I spend so much time running around looking for ammo. Sometimes even when he opens himself up to being damaged, I can't do anything to him because I don't have any ammo to shoot him with. I can't stand these kinds of boss fights. It's boring, it's badly designed, it sucks, I don't like it. I won't go on and on about this, but it sucks. In this game, in any game, I don't like these kinds of boss fights. They're just bad. Here it comes. Oh god, sweet relief. Sweet relief. We hop onto a barge and now we can figure out where the kids are being taken to. I want to mention something here because the game presents the Lutadors as these brutish killers. They have a culty religious vibe to them with the human sacrifice stuff, with the skulls on spikes I've seen around. Yet somehow they figured out how to break out of their dome, get onto the space station, stole tech from the robots, used that tech for their own purposes, broke into another habitat where Davis and Leo are from, take prisoners from Earth and back to the Lutador homeworld. Not only that, they are actively fighting the robots on their home turf, the space station. Humans haven't done any of that. They're blissfully unaware that they're even in an enclosure. I give the Lutadors credit, they're way ahead of humans regarding liberation from the robot overlords. After progressing for a little bit after the barge, we fight one of these brutes again. Except this one I can't cheese because this one becomes invulnerable for a little time while other enemies come in and try to shoot at me. He also moves around the arena, so I can't just sit there and throw lava at him constantly. He has a machine gun and also a grav link to mess with me. But he does eventually go down. Looking through the footage, I had to try this fight more times than I thought to beat him. It's kind of difficult, actually. After moving forward from the boss fight, Leo and Davis talk about something I've been suspecting for a while. The Lutador planet has buildings similar to Earth. I think replicas of the Earth have been created for the robots to use. Why would they do this? Maybe they're trying to learn more about humans and the only way they see to do that is to keep them enclosed in a dome? Or several domes, in this case. They don't seem to be getting anything out of this, from what I can tell. It's not like the Matrix. Humans are not being harvested for energy. I don't know why they're doing any of this. We spot the transport and need to follow it to whatever building that it's being taken to, and then, maybe, finally, we can find the kids. It's not long before we find the kids in this building, and I have some things to say about this, because, look, Davis clearly loves his daughter more than anything. I know that.
It's all in vain.
I can't believe when he says this. Davis, there are dozens of kids down here. You can save all of these kids. And he says it's in vain, and he's ready to give up. It's just, Davis, you're so goddamn frustrating. They end up getting caught down here, and Davis gets knocked out again. Yep. We are back at the scene from the very beginning of the game where this Kilter character is giving a speech. He's their leader, remember. The Lutadors are strange because they know about the robots and they know that different domes exist. They left theirs, got onto the space station, and went to another dome from there to take people, and then came all the way back with the people. They must be sterile, because why would they need to take children from another dome? Why not have your own kids? They're making human sacrifices and talking about praising the Lord. What Lord? It's the robots doing all of this and causing the problems. As comforting as these people might find it, that they have to make sacrifices and everything will be okay, the robots are the issue. There is no divine being that you have to appease. I just don't understand these people. Oh! Who's that? Who did that? Oh, shoot. Who is this? Are they loot? No, it's Banks! Banks is here. Wait, how did you even get here? Wait a minute. It does. Wait, no, it doesn't matter. Banks is here, baby. I don't know how you got here. He's got a lot of people with him, and we're in a different dome. So he must have found that train and taken it here. I don't know how many domes there are, but it looked like there were 4 of them. It wouldn't be too hard to figure out where to go, I guess. Davis and Leo figured it out, so Banks must be able to figure it out too, because he's a smart guy. We're gearing up for the final boss fight with Kilter, and he gives us a little speech here about being the supreme commander of the Inversion. Other than that, I don't know why he's doing what he's doing. He wants to be the big cheese. He wants to be the one calling all the shots. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, you can be in charge, you can call all the shots, but when shit hits the fan, when things go sideways, you get blamed, so enjoy that. Before we get there, we have to deal with a brute. Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. We have to deal with 2 brutes. Fun! It's actually not too bad. It's really helpful that the lava pit is here. And what I realized, maybe I mentioned this before, you can hit the brutes directly with the grav link, either with the light setting or the heavy setting, and that will immobilize them like I do right here. It kind of stumbles them for a second there, which is really helpful because then they're not constantly shooting at me, and I can take the time to throw a lava ball at them. The weakest pane of glass I've ever seen in my life. I actually forgot about this part until I reviewed the footage here. We have to drop down into this thing and fight enemies along the way, find Kilter, and take him down. This area is pretty cool looking visually. I find the space station areas to be nice looking, and periodically you gotta be careful because this giant beam shoots through here. I'm not sure what this is for. It's probably something to do with the power of the station. I don't know why that goes off occasionally, but the sections where it's going to come through do light up so you're not blindsided. You can get out of the way. I just think it looks interesting visually. We are no longer on the Lutador home planet. As you can see, we have been ascending up into space, following Kilter, trying to figure out where he's going. We have to deal with more than one security bot as we're following him, but thankfully, never more than one at once. This is it. This is where it all ends. The Inversion Energy Distribution Center. Here we go. From what I understand, Kilter is willing to blow up the whole ship rather than let someone else get the power of the Inversion, I think. Why blow up the whole ship? He doesn't want to be in charge? How can you be in charge if you're dead? And the thing you want to be in charge of is destroyed. I don't really understand what his motivation is or what he's trying to go for. This boss fight took me a few tries to understand what it is I need to be doing. He has a shield. Once it's damaged enough, he takes energy from the core to recharge his own shield. As he's recharging, the core is exposed, but you can't shoot it and damage it. And I was trying desperately to shoot this thing. I couldn't damage it. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And honestly, I had a hard time seeing those robots, to be honest with you. And that's what you're supposed to throw at the core. What I realized after a while is that I can't shoot the core, and I have to instead throw 3 robots at the core, and then the damage is done. And I finally get him down to his health bar, no shield, and he goes down pretty fast here with no shield up. It's over for you, buddy. You're done. Now give me that little green thing that I gotta put back into the machine so it doesn't melt down. Not off the ledge! It's okay. Davis got it. But then, of course, at no point Davis or Leo is putting a bullet in this guy to put him down, and Davis gets knocked off the ledge here and dies. After everything, Davis freaking dies. And Leo better hurry up and put that damn key in there. He's gonna die too, and the whole world is gonna die. But he makes it. This robot lady says the previous course has been reactivated and they'll arrive in 8,273 hours. That's 344 days. Yes, I did do the math. Where is the ship going? Is it going to a different planet to make another habitat out of it? Leo is, of course, distraught. The friend that he's been through so much with is gone. After the death of their leader, the Ludador gives up. They throw down their weapons. They're done. Everybody else is free to go back to their lives, whatever is left of them. And that's really all the answers that we get. Everything I have to say here is speculation. So, does this mean everybody goes back to Dome Earth? Where do the Ludadors go? There were 4 of those domes at least, from what I could see. I can assume 1 for Earth and 1 for the Ludadors. What about the other 2? What's there? I don't think these domes are habitats for all of Earth. In fact, it can't be because it's a dome, not a sphere. It looks to me that these domes encompass specific places. For instance, Vanguard City and the surrounding suburbs and countryside. What about the people living in the domes close to where the edge is? Is there an ocean surrounding the whole area and people believe they live on an island? What do the robots do to people who get too curious and try to cross the ocean? Kill them? If you're living in a dome, the edge has to be somewhere. There must be a wall that people could run into if they get out far enough. We're a long way from Earth, I take it, and the robots may have abducted a bunch of humans from Earth and put them in these domes for reasons that are not clear. Does the Earth still exist? Could you turn the ship around and go back? And if you went back, would you find the Earth with people living normal lives? Is it a hellscape planet stripped of resources? Was it blown up? Something else? I have so many questions and no answers. Normally, I feel that if you don't make a sequel to something relatively quickly, I would say within 5 years, I lose interest. Inversion is a game that deserves a sequel because there are things under the surface here that could make this a great series that goes places. I wonder what is on those other 2 domes, or are there more domes? Interestingly, they say they've been living with this lie for millennia. That's thousands of years. So the robots have been at this for a long time. Does that mean that possibly they've been taking people from Earth for a long time, other than from the modern period of Earth? Have they perhaps taken humans from other time periods in history and put them on their own domes? Wouldn't that be an interesting concept, to travel to other domes and essentially be traveling back in time? I think there's a lot of potential here, being able to travel to other eras of human life. That would be really interesting.
As for Davis, least I never had to tell him the truth.
Uh-oh, what truth, Leo?
Oh, shit.
I suspected that this is what happened. Layla died a long time ago, all the way back in the apartment building. Leo hid this from Davis the whole time. I don't know how to feel about this. On the one hand, I understand why Leo didn't tell him. Finding Layla was the driving force for Davis. If he knew that she was dead, he wouldn't have done anything he did. On the other hand, it's messed up not to tell your friend that your daughter is gone. Not that there was time to grieve or give his daughter and wife, let's not forget about her, a proper burial, but damn, that's kind of cold, Leo. I don't know what I would have done in Leo's position. I would want to tell my friend the truth, but I know it would destroy him. I don't have the right answer here. If you don't tell him, there's the risk he finds out later and is angry with you. If you do tell him, he may die in despair. It's a tough spot to be in. It's possible that Davis and Leo could have left things to Banks, even though they ran into him by chance. He's got a lot of people with him. You saw that scene where Banks and his men bursted in. Like I said earlier, Banks found a way to that train, then to the space station, and then back down to the Ludador Dome. If you remember, Banks even said that the same hole that Leo and Davis jumped down to get out of the prison was the same one Banks used to get out, but did so earlier than them. Banks is a capable character. I think it's entirely possible that he could have been the one to go all the way and free everyone. That way, Davis could be told the truth and be left to grieve. Not that there's a lot left in his dome to be excited about, but maybe people could rebuild. And after the credits scene, okay. Oh wait, I'm pretty sure I know what's coming. Oh, are you gonna do it? Are you gonna do it? There it is, there's Davis. And that's the game. I appreciate you for watching all the way through. I put a lot of work into this, so thank you. I'll see you next time.